All right, guys, so the next thing we want to do is create our user model, okay? Because we're going to be dealing with users in our database. So anytime we have a resource in our database, we need to have a model, okay? Just like we have for our ideas. So let's go into the models folder, which is right here, and we'll create a new file, and we're going to call this uppercase U user.js. All right, and then we can actually copy our idea schema because it's going to be very similar. Paste that in, and we're going to bring in Mongoose. Okay, we're going to get the schema, and we're going to create the schema, but we're going to call it user schema. All right, and it's not going to have a title. We're going to have a name, which will be a string, which will be required. We'll have an email, which will be a string and required, and we'll have a password, which actually we'll keep the date as well. But we're also going to have a password that will be a string and required. And we're going to encrypt the password. Don't worry about that. You should never ever put plain text passwords in your database. We're going to use something called bcrypt for that. All right. And then down here, we're just going to export it as users and then just pass in our user schema like that. All right. So that's it. That's our user model. Let's save it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to install bcrypt to encrypt our passwords. Okay. Now there's two different modules. There's bcrypt and there's bcrypt.js. Okay. Bcrypt.js is just a strictly JavaScript implementation, and it's much easier. There's much less dependencies and much less hassle. So I would always suggest using bcrypt.js. So let's go ahead and stop this with Control-C. And we're going to go ahead and say npm install --save bcrypt.js. Okay, make sure you put the JS on the end. And we're going to install that. Okay, because what we need to do is when we fill out this register account, this register form, the password needs to get hashed before it gets put into the database. So that's what bcrypt is for. So let's go ahead and run our server. And now what we're going to do is we're going to catch the register form. So if we go to our routes, our user routes, so routes user.js, we need a post form now, or a post route. So we'll say, let's say register form post. So we'll say router, make sure you do router, not app, dot post slash register. Okay, we'll put our recres. And just to test it out for now, let's just say res.send. Oh. And we'll just say register. All right, another thing I want to do is just console.log the form field, so request.body. All right, now let's go to our register form. So users, registers, handlebars, and we want to go to the form tag, and we want to add action, and we want method. Okay, so the method is going to be post, and the action is going to be /users/register. So let's save that. Let's go over here and let's submit. Okay, so it's asking for our front end, what is this, validation. So name, we'll just say Brad. Just gonna put whatever in here, doesn't really matter. And submit. Okay, so we got, you can see that the route worked. It's doing the res.send register, and then it console logged the request body, which has the name, email, password, and password too. All right, now we're going to have to do some validation here, okay? The front-end validation for the required, that's fine, but we need to make sure that our passwords are a certain length. We also need to make sure that these two match, okay, the confirm password. Otherwise, it's pointless to even have this. So what we're going to do is, let's just get rid of these two lines. And let's go ahead and do the same thing we did when we did our other validation, we'll create a variable called errors, which will get set to an array. We're going to say if request.body.password is not equal to request.body.password2, then that means that they don't match. So we're going to grab that errors array and we're going to push onto it. We're going to push an object with the text of passwords do not match. Okay, and then another thing I want to do is check for the length of the password. So let's say if request.body.password.length is less than 4, then we want to go ahead and set an error. And for the error, we'll say password must be at least 4 characters. All right, and then what we'll do is check to see if the errors array is, if it has anything in it. So we'll say if errors dot length is greater than 0, meaning it has if it has anything in it, then we want to re-render the form. So res.render. We want to render users/register, and we want to pass some stuff in here. So we want to pass in the errors, which is an array. We want to pass in the name, which is whatever is in the body. We want to pass in the email, which is whatever is in the body. We want to pass in password 1, or just password. And also password 2. All right. So the reason we're passing these back in is so that the form doesn't have to clear if it's wrong. So they don't have to re-enter everything. So let's do that if, and then we'll put an else here. And for now, we're just going to say res.send. And we'll say passed. All right, and then back in register, let's add the values for these forms. So let's see, for the name, let's go right here. We'll say value equals, and we're going to set that to name. All right, and then for email, same thing. Password. And password 2. All right. So let's go ahead and, whoops. Let's go back to our register. And let's see. Let's just put anything in. Email has to be a valid email. Password. Let's just put 1 character here, and let's not match and submit. So it's re-rendering the form, but it's not displaying any errors. So what we need to do is we need to loop through these errors somewhere. Now, when we did this with the add form, so if we go to our ideas, add.handlebars, we did it up here, right? So we need to do the same thing, but instead of putting this in every single template that we want to use it in, let's put it in a partial, and then let's insert it into the main layout. So what I'll do is cut this out, and we'll save that, and then we're going to create a new partial, and we're going to call it _errors.handlebars. Okay, and then we'll paste that in. And then let's go ahead and go to our main, layouts main, and right below where we have our message, we'll put our _errors. All right, so now there we go. passwords don't match, and password must be at least 4 characters. If we do the 4 characters and they still don't match, why does that keep... There we go. It looks like, though, the email is getting filled with my name for some reason, so let's check that out. Let's see. So, yeah, right here. So email, you can see for value, I have name. That should be email. All right. So our validation is good. Now let's try to make it pass. I'm just going to refresh this, and we'll just say Harry White email. Let's say 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 4 5. Submit, and we passed. All right. So in the next video, I was going to do it in this one, but this is getting kind of long. So in the next video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to handle this. So if this passes, we need to do a couple things. We need to encrypt the password with bcrypt, and then we need to insert the user with Mongoose. All right, so we'll get to that next.